Limited to just 3 days of testing this year, Formula 1 teams faced a much smaller window than usual to get up to speed before the new season. But it still gave enough time for an early pecking order to emerge. Here are 10 things we learned from Formula 1 pre-season testing. Red Bull wins testing. What a difference a year makes for Red Bull. 12 months on from its regular spins in Barcelona, it vaulted to the top of the timesheets courtesy of Max Verstappen. An impressive qualifying simulation on Sunday evening saw Red Bull show off its one-lap pace, but the car looked strong all round. It was stable and predictable, pleasing both Verstappen and new teammate Sergio Perez. Importantly though, it was fast everywhere. Mercedes revealed after testing that its data showed Red Bull was ahead on the race runs, while Lewis Hamilton called his rival team a different animal for 2021. Red Bull was the winner of testing, but will it be ahead when it counts? Mercedes can't lose the favourite tag just yet. Mercedes' big problem isn't its lack of pace on paper. After all, it's only testing, and times are hard to read. It's the fact that both Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas haven't looked anywhere near as comfortable as usual in the Mercedes car. Both drivers reported the rear end of the car was snappy and unstable, suffering a number of off-track moments and spins. It's a role reversal with Red Bull from last year. Mercedes has a filming day in Bahrain this week to have a final attempt at getting on top of its issues. Is it sandbagging? Teams never cost themselves mileage, especially when testing is so limited. But it won't be until Q3 in Bahrain that we get a true answer about its struggles. Ferrari thinks it's put its power problems in the past. After a disastrous 2020 marred by its underperforming engine and a draggy car, one of the big pre-season testing questions in 2021 concerned Ferrari's chance of a comeback. Ferrari's engine showed promising signs on the dyno over the winter and matched up on track as it returned to parity with the other power units. It prompted Mattia Binotto to declare that straight-line speed was not a disadvantage anymore for Ferrari. It might not have been the totally convincing display it so frequently used to trot out in pre-season testing, but Ferrari has unquestionably made progress. McLaren Mercedes reunite successfully. After 6 years of dalliances and seeing other people, McLaren and Mercedes are back together. They just fit together, like F1's very own Ross and Rachel. And just like old friends, the new car showed no signs of being out of sync with the Mercedes power unit. New signing Daniel Ricciardo looked impressive, while Lando Norris was equally comfortable as he heads into his third season. The team was also responsible for one of the more high-profile tech finds of the off-season, finding a workaround for the new diffuser restrictions that has really got its rivals talking. It's all led to an air of quiet confidence for McLaren going into 2021. Tsunoda looks like the real deal. Given the high interest, for the right and wrong reasons, in Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin over the winter, Formula 1's other rookie went somewhat under the radar. That was until Yuki Tsunoda was trading fastest lap times with Max Verstappen in the closing hour of pre-season testing, even if that was down to a questionable use of DRS. The Japanese driver's rapid rise up the junior categories, going from Japanese F4 to F1 in 3 years, has proved his ability to learn quickly. It's something we saw clearly in Bahrain as he surged to second place in the final standings, ending his first official F1 test on a high. Aston Martin and Vettel are seriously behind. While the final timesheets ranking ultimately matters little in F1 testing, it's a completely different matter when it comes to mileage. That's something Sebastian Vettel and Aston Martin fell well short of over the 3 days in Bahrain. A gearbox problem on day 2 and then a suspected turbo problem on the final day drastically limited Vettel's running when he needed as much time as possible to adapt to his new surroundings. The difficulties left Aston second from bottom in the mileage ranking, only beating Mercedes. Vettel confessed that he left the test about 100 laps short of where he'd like to have been. He may be excited to start life with Aston Martin, but it's hardly a confidence filler to kick things off. F1 2021 is not going to be slower despite the downforce cuts. There was much speculation over the winter about the teams likely struggling to make up for the downforce losses forced upon the cars for 2021. But F1 teams are full of brilliant engineering brains. and progress to recoup the missing performance has been relentless. Despite Pirelli's 2021 rubber being around 1 second per lap slower thanks to its heavier and tough compounds, it was quite a big surprise in testing to see cars lap Bahrain just as fast as they did, suggesting that they will actually not end up being any slower at all this year. Verstappen's test topping lap would have been good enough for 11th place on the grid in last November's Bahrain Grand Prix, but if you take into account that in testing, teams generally run more fuel and are unlikely to be going as completely flat out as they will in Q3 in a fortnight, you can be sure that the cars will be even quicker once they are unleashed in full angle for the first time at the opening race. Teams have taken different approaches to the new floor rules. One of the big battlegrounds following the downforce cuts for 2021 is how teams have approached designing their new floors. Mercedes and Red Bull took great pains to hide their brand new floors at their respective launches, but now there's nowhere to hide come testing. Teams have been using scrolls in this area for years, helping to add a little extra downforce by increasing the possibility for airflow to expand underneath the car, particularly when the car is in yaw during cornering. Mercedes design drew comparisons to a lasagna or Viennetta ice cream, while Red Bull's floor was updated numerous times throughout the 3 days in Bahrain. Who did it best remains to be seen. Alonso made a smooth return with Alpine. Even after fracturing his upper jaw in a cycling accident just weeks before testing, Fernando Alonso got back into the groove really quickly. It took just a couple of hours to show that he'd lost little of his former edge during his 2 years away from F1. It even got a bit feisty with old foe Lewis Hamilton on track at one point while they were both completing a race simulation. The team caught attention for its bulbous 2021 airbox design, for which executive director Marcin Bukowski called out the F1 paddock for body shaming, but he said they offered performance gains. The signs are looking promising for Fernando Alonso's comeback. There's no perfect F1 testing venue. Heading to Bahrain seemed like a smart idea for 2021's pre-season running. The strong likelihood of hot and dry weather gave teams the best opportunity to put new machines through their paces. But last weekend, F1 was once again reminded that there is never a perfect venue for testing, as high winds whipped up a sandstorm that hit the Bahrain track on the opening day. The Sakir circuit may not pose the same rigorous chassis testing characteristics of Barcelona, but its wide nature and huge asphalt runoffs allow drivers to recover from mistakes, limiting incident-related red flag stoppages to only 3 over the whole test. And let's not forget that in 2018, freezing temperatures and snow at Barcelona played havoc with the test programme. Surely F1 would take high winds and a sandstorm over that. How do you think the Constructors' Championship is going to play out in 2021? Leave your predictions for the F1 pecking order in the comments below.